Happy New Year, guys.
We're here.
Can you believe it?
In a different spot.
It's Monday. It's 2025.
Hey, happy anniversary to you. I know that you guys in Lakeview land celebrate January 6th very, very seriously. And I just wanted to say happy anniversary. I know it means a lot to you.
January 6th is a very big deal. So thank you.
It was the day of the insurrection in the Capitol. I was making a joke.
Well, we celebrated my 15-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I was confused because I was like, were you watching the live stream?
Or it's like, it's the Epiphany in Tarpon Springs.
So 15 years. So you started there at 22?
Started Lakeview as a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Just a wee lad.
Wow.
Just a wee lad.
That's awesome.
It was crazy.
And now he's a 37-year-old.
So I didn't know that was going to be part of the service. Sam had called me in the week and was like, hey, I've got a few announcements to make, so I'll be right after the video. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So that was kind of a bit of a surprise for me. So I didn't have my speech prepared.
Did anyone else just see the screens behind us changing colors? Is that happening to anybody else?
Andrew, why are you were getting distracted?
I'm very confused and distracted, but that's because yesterday was Sunday.
And this is the morning after.
Welcome to the Morning After Ministry Show, a caffeine-fueled look back on the week and ministry that was.
Well, it's here. It's Monday. It's a brand new year, which means
New space.
We've got a brand new space, which it really isn't a new space. Andrew, what are we looking at? What is our audience seeing right now?
They're seeing us, the three of us. I'm Andrew.
Yeah, but what's more important
This is
than
Frank.
us?
This is Tim.
There's something behind us.
The cross, which is very important.
This is the worship center of Safety Harbor Community Church. It's aesthetically beautiful. Look at the wood beams over our heads.
Dare I say, more beautiful than Andrew's office.
Oh, wow.
It's so pretty. Andrew has been resisting the move for months and months. He said, my worship center is old. I don't
That's
like
not
it in
at
there.
all what I
would
said.
never, ever want to be. I'm like,
what I
you have a
said
great
was,
space, buddy.
here I can put my gear on my desk and push it against the wall and it won't be in the way. Whereas we have chairs strewn everywhere out of the shot and we had to move a table and it's...
What Andrew means is I had to do 5 minutes of work to make this shot happen. And it's beautiful. The comments are flooding in.
It is
They
beautiful.
love this.
And you know what's not in this room? A second commandment violation of the Jesus puppet that's in your background.
Wow.
That Jesus puppet has been part of our lives for years. That's a sacred cow.
So when we got to this building, and I wasn't here yet, but when my church got to this building, there was a puppet ministry in the previous church. So we're like going through closets and we found all kinds of wild things. It's amazing what happens when you move into a space that a church that has died was previously in. You find all kinds of good stuff.
Look, I'm a big fan of puppets. I have nothing against them. We were cleaning out the old kids ministry space at Lakeview a few years ago, and our kids ministry director at that time said, hey, here's a box of creepy puppets if you want them with the kids. And I took them home, and we had creepy puppet shows for weeks.
I love creepy puppet shows.
They were terrifying. All the kids would run away screaming.
Tim, I will see your creepy puppet show and I'll one-up you. I don't know if you're familiar with the Awana Cubbies.
Oh, I was absolutely in Awanas growing up. I filled my booklet. I filled my vest.
You got I
wanted every badge.
You got all the jewels in your crown.
All the jewels in my crown.
There you go. Timmy, the church I grew up in that I first began serving in ministry in, it was my junior year of high school when I was asked to help take over the preschool Sunday school program.
Wow.
And I thought,
wow,
absolutely I will.
It's
a big deal.
I'd do it.
And there were a couple of adults that they didn't feel comfortable teaching some of the Sunday school stories. So they thought, hey, we'll have Andrew do it. And it was great. And so during snack time, I would go into the preschool area and find whatever. And one time I came out wearing the Cubby Bear head. They had the full-on mascot suit.
Oh, you had the whole suit.
They had the whole suit, but I just put on the Cubby Bear head.
You guys had a budget.
In my regular church clothes.
Frank became a Christian much later in life. He has no idea what we're talking about.
I traumatized these children. I can still hear their screams. They're all 30 years old and married at this point. But one of them, I was at his grandma's funeral a few months ago. She was my middle school English teacher. And it was a, hey, thank you so much. This is my wife. I've already told her about the Cubby Bear head. That's how I was introduced. So
that is classic.
Church closets have wonderful, wonderful things to hang out with and to scare children with.
We just had a little bit of a break, the holiday break. So we were in kind of that abyss for
where you don't know what day it is and you don't know if you showered.
You don't know the day, you don't know the time. You're wondering what the smell is. But now we're back. So I'm kind of wondering, how do you guys transition back into day-to-day ministry life as opposed to, I mean, we had a lot of kids at home. Andrew, you did too. So there was a lot of humans around the house.
Well, and we took a trip. You took a trip.
We snuck out.
Frank just bought a house.
Yep.
So he didn't go anywhere except for to his new house.
That's mostly what I did the last couple weeks. Yeah.
But we
when did you get back? You took a trip, then came back and preached. I had Frank preach while I was gone. Then I came back and I got to play the role of campus pastor because Todd preached. And what was great about it is Frank said, "Hey Tim, since you're not preaching today, let me give you some campus pastor tips." I didn't know if I should like is that like a shot?
Wasn't that the name of his previous podcast, Campus Pastor Tips with Frank Gill?
Look, all I know is Frank said you need to find a spot to camp out and greet as many people as you can. So that's what I did. And I have never talked to more people on a Sunday morning because I didn't feel the weight of having to mentally prepare to go preach 3 times.
Matt Coyne, he said, first of all, they have a Puggles costume.
Oh my gosh.
Fantastic. And he didn't go back to work because he has a 2-month sabbatical starting January 1.
Why are you watching this show? This is ministry.
This is work. He is working right now by watching
on the
our
clock.
show.
He's violating his sabbatical right now. Matt,
when I was on sabbatical, I Skyped in from Scotland.
Your sabbatical was 3 hours long.
That's true. That's true. It's true. I didn't want to leave my church, which is why I came home on the 29th. So I drove my family to Arkansas on the 26th.
Yeah.
On the 28th, I took 2 flights and got home at like 2 a.m. Preach on the 29th, or the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's is a fun Sunday around here. We do the whole thing in the fellowship hall. You know, it's going to be a lower attended Sunday
good.
Anyway. And so instead of saying, we typically have our whole service, then people stick around for a couple hours afterwards eating and whatnot.
It's one of my, I think you have 2 events that I love. I mean, I love a lot of things you do, but you have the dinner of thanks.
Yep.
And you have the post-Christmas. We're all in the fellowship hall. We know you're out of town, but if you're in town, we'd love to have you. We're going to have a kind of a scaled back service.
And it's like the praise team just went all out for weekend services and then Christmas Eve.
You have the space to be able to pull that off. It's a sweet use of the space.
And I don't have a Frank or a Todd.
I call them fraud.
Tim has a whole roster.
Together they are fraud.
Of backup preachers now. And that he can call on, and
they're not just backup preachers; they are they're communicators. They are on the
primary
schedule.
Communicators who happen to not teach every week in main service.
And I want to give a shout out to Todd because yes, it was his first time preaching main service ever, and I asked him to preach back to back to back, which is
3 times.
No small task, and he crushed it. Frank,
he crushed it. He did a great job. I had my notes app open to prepare with some critiques. I barely had anything to critique.
Frank was really ready to tear him to shreds. That's Frank's MO.
Did he stand up? Did he sit down? What was the...
Frank wanted to tear him apart.
He stood the whole time, but he was like, if I could describe a preacher that's very similar to him, it's going to be David Platt. Like he's holding the pulpit. He's there. He's mostly reading.
I feel like if he and David Platt got into a fight, it would not be a very long fight, and David Platt would get hurt very bad. Todd is very big and strong.
Yeah, he wore a good outfit.
Although Platt's been lifting. Okay. I saw him; he was pretty jacked.
Well, he's got to defend himself from all of his congregants.
Wow.
Hey, one thing that happened yesterday that I've never seen at a church before at Lakeview was
Frank loves this.
I'm standing out there and I see a giant red bus pull up into the church parking lot, and it was a blood donation bus.
The Bloodmobile.
Yeah,
You've never seen the Bloodmobile at a church?
No, that's my point. Here's the thing. How Christian is this a moment where a Bloodmobile is pulling up to a church on Communion Sunday?
I bet you that blood is precious.
That's true.
And I was talking to some congregants afterwards, and they're like,
do you know who else gave his blood to save your life?
Yeah, we're covered by the blood. We're drinking his blood, and we're giving blood.
It's a bloody Sunday.
There was some congregants.
Ooh, I know a song about that.
There were some congregants that were like, knowing that the Bloodmobile was there on Communion Sunday, they were like second guessing what they were drinking. And I was like,
That's true.
That's gross.
That's
Andrew, have you had the Bloodmobile here?
quoting.
No, we don't have
It
space.
would take the entire
We don't have
parking lot.
space. We would have to find a Sunday that was not a market Sunday because of the market on Main Street and have it park up here on the street. And now that we're here in this room, I can actually just point to, hey, you could park there beyond the yellow line.
That's true.
So the Bloodmobile doesn't get a ticket, a bloody ticket. And yeah, it probably would not work here.
So I think that's our third or fourth time Bloodmobiling at Lakeview. I have not ventured into the Bloodmobile because
You pass out.
I don't give blood well. My doctor does house calls and has to come to my house, and I have to be laying on my couch, and he has to talk to me in a sweet, gentle voice.
He has to tickle his feet just a little
The
bit.
entire time he's taking my blood.
Could you imagine if
That's every 6 weeks. I
if
give
you
blood every 6 weeks.
if Tim like gave blood like between services and he just completely passes out?
Like Michael Scott, where he wakes up with the glove.
Yeah.
He's got to find her.
That's funny.
So, Tim, you preached twice Christmas Eve.
Back-to-back Christmas Evers.
You were copying Safety Harbor. You had inside, outside options.
Inside,
And-
outside options. The
Inside,
doors-
outside, and online. That's kind of
We flung the doors wide open, and apparently if you open the doors, the people show up.
also, how did that impact sound? Because you don't have speakers outside.
We don't have speakers outside. I tested it out by just kind of walking out there. Sounded, fine, like you're just a little bit further away. The only bummer was we did not adequately prepare for the amount of people. We did rent chairs. We assumed there'd be a few more, but apparently 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve is when everyone wants to go to church, like everyone. So the worst thing that I've ever seen happened. I saw people leave because there was no room in the inn.
Wow. Now that's true Christmas story.
I wasn't thrilled about that. I asked our team, can we please grab every chair available? So they actually went around the lake and grabbed the prayer benches and brought those over too. So I don't think a lot of people were turned away. We ended up just grabbing every possible seat we could on campus to fit as many people in as we could. It was a great problem, but no one wants to turn anyone away from church like that. And we didn't turn anyone away. It was just, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Like if a room
I get it.
feels
If
uncomfortably
a room
full,
feels 103% full, you don't want to sit in there.
and I had elders leading up to Christmas Eve saying, Tim, we're a 3-service church and you're having 2 on Christmas Eve.
They were right.
And I was like, hey, guys, it's fine. We're going to open the doors. We're going to rent 100 extra chairs. No big deal. And
Didn't work
sometimes
out.
your elders are right.
Go figure.
Looking at you,
Sometimes.
Sam.
See, we had one service on Christmas Eve because we're a one service church,
You're a one-service church.
and I came in early to get everything done, and then it was 2 hours before, and everything was done. All my setup was done. My sermon was good to go, and so I walked down to Starbucks because I'm pointing because there's windows here, but
I see the
you
Starbucks.
guys can't see. There's a Starbucks over here, so I
see that,
start
yeah.
walking, and there's another church where we have some friends that they rent the gazebo that's about 50 yards from here every Christmas Eve and
sure do.
Easter. And so I got to wave at them for a little bit
That's fun.
and be like, oh, hey, guys, what's going on? So we talked for a little bit, and then their service was, I think, at 5:30, and ours was at 6.
Yeah.
So I felt bad because right when our band started really going was the sermon part of theirs. But
Wait, so in service, you guys can hear each other?
you can hear us from the gazebo.
I see. Because
Because-
your doors are wide open.
No, because we have stuff outside. We have people sitting outside. So our people that were sitting outside, they sat outside and they got the
I see.
worship time as like the preamble for the other church.
Yep.
And then when they went to the message, we cranked it up, and our opening set is fairly loud on Christmas Eve. So I don't know what to do about it except for the fact that they rent a gazebo 50 yards from another evangelical church. So
So can I ask an awkward question?
sure.
Have they ever said,
Yeah.
let's team up?
No. They're not in Safety Harbor. They don't participate in any of the Safety Harbor things. So like we have all
But
of the
this
church.
is like a tradition that they do.
Yeah, we have the evangelical churches in Safety Harbor. We get together, we do the sunrise Easter service, we do lots of things. This is a church that has never wanted to be a part of any of the other things. And yet
You would not be opposed.
they would be welcome to be in there. We have another church that has a Clearwater mailing address that Countryside Baptist.
I'm
Where,
saying if they were to be like, hey, let's team up and do something fun, you wouldn't be opposed to it.
no, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't think Christmas Eve makes sense to rent a spot that's not in your facility, though, because there's Christmas, Easter, and maybe if you do like a trunk or treat, are the 3 times a year that you're going to get people that normally would not be comfortable coming to a church, coming to your church.
Actually come to the church.
And so the idea of, hey, we're going to do this out in the community, a community that we're not technically a part of, does not seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. But whatever. It's not a church I go to.
I hear you.
But I also don't want to feel bad about us having our regularly scheduled service at a normal volume because there's another church meeting in the gazebo down the street.
There's nothing to feel
I mean,
bad
when we're having our regular church on Sunday morning and there's cows out here for the market on Main Street, the 22nd, there were cows and goats for not for a live nativity, just for a petting zoo.
just for funsies.
Because it was the last market on Main Street of the year. So
did you preach the Sunday after Christmas as well as the Sunday after New Year's?
I did.
You are,
Timmy,
you're a champ.
I had...
Even on like National Youth Pastor Preaching Day, you still preached.
Our youth pastor preached. Tim, I am the pastor of the church.
You're also the youth pastor.
I am the pastor to the youth in the church. I'm the pastor to the children in the church. Now, we have a Sunday school program and things for them, but my goal is for the kids in the church to see me as their pastor. So
CJ says, Andrew cranking up that volume outside reminds me of an old man yelling, "Get off my lawn." That was exactly what he was doing.
Get off my downtown.
Is this
We're
louder?
the church in Safety Harbor.
Is this louder than usual? I'm sorry. Can you guys hear that? Okay.
Sounded great.
So are you, I guess for me, like if I'm on vacation with the fam, were you prepping a sermon or were you already prepped?
I was prepped-ish.
Okay.
So in July, I took a week and got a really hard and fast, here is my preaching calendar, and it's through the end of January. So this is the last series that I had on my calendar.
Okay.
That started yesterday, which was Sunday.
Do you have the new preaching calendar set and ready to go?
No. I am gasp over here.
So what are you going to do first week of February?
I have a plan that I want to iron out.
Open up Right Now Media and let everyone watch Craig Rochelle or something?
That's not what we're going to do. But
you can eat together and do that.
We could eat together
Life
while
purpose over breakfast.
It'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I have a sermon series idea that I haven't wordsmithed or come up with a cool name.
You don't want to say
yet.
it out loud because someone would steal it.
It's the idea is we're gonna be,
At the movies.
it's right when everybody is in that really boring part of their reading plan when you're going through Leviticus and Numbers.
How dare you?
Baby, get through Leviticus.
The idea is the middle because we preach on the Exodus, we preach on Joshua, but there's 40 years in the middle there.
So almost like stuck in the middle.
And so something like stuck in the middle, just the middle.
Malcolm in the middle?
No, that probably wouldn't work. But but what do you do in the in-between thing? And so
in-betweeners?
So in-betweeners, that's great. So, Balaam, that whole part of the history.
Ton of fun.
So, and you know how I feel about Old Testament narrative.
You love a good chunk of narrative.
I do.
Well, you're a good story. I mean, if you're sitting down, it's nice to tell a story.
It's a fireside chat with Pastor Andrew.
Fireside chats with Larson. I think it's a beautiful thing. Well, we had Frank preach, we had Todd preach. I'm back on this week, and I'll preach a few Sundays in a row. And then, Frank, I've heard from several people who are actually really excited about you preaching 1 Corinthians, because I know you've done a couple of not topical, but not in series sermons.
Right. They were one-off exegetical sermons. Yeah.
So I guess people are kind of wondering, and like they're curious, how is this going to work at Lakeview when we're going through the same series?
Is he a one-trick pony or is he for real? Yeah.
Right, exactly. But what's kind of cool is you and I will be sharing commentaries.
Yeah.
We'll be using the same resources. I don't think like the sermons between us are going to be that drastically different depending on who's preaching what. Like if worse comes to worse and I got like devilishly sick on a Saturday and my manuscript was done, I would feel comfortable sending you my manuscript.
Well, yeah.
To be able to preach. I think we're that similar in our styles where it wouldn't matter that much.
Yeah.
But we're also different enough to where people do get like a break in the just one single communicator every single week.
Yeah. I think it's going to be I'm excited for. I think your people are excited to.
There are people, by the way.
There are people.
You're on staff at Lakeview Church.
I think our people are excited to see a diversity of voices on the stage. Even though I even heard from someone, they were like, when I first preached, they were afraid that. Like what happened to Tim? Where's Tim? And then they were like, kind of skeptical about me. Like,
there's a lot of baggage that comes with. Like, there are people that have come from churches where if someone else is showing up to preach, that means that somebody's been disciplined, or if thinking of specific denominations in the area that have had quite a bit of upheaval recently. And there are people that kind of coming into our churches from that tradition that are like, oh no, did the bishop call? Is Pastor Tim getting moved? What?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on?
For sure.
And because they've just been through that where they came from,
it makes
they
sense.
really liked the 20 straight weeks of the same person.
Yeah. But I think like there's now like kind of a good thing that's when someone who isn't Tim is going to be preaching, they can be confident that they don't have to be nervous if they brought a friend or a family member that it's going to be a whack sermon.
That's the worst.
Yeah, right? Like you have the missionary in town and all of a sudden they're wearing like African garb and they're barefoot for some reason and they're just like telling stories. I mean, I think that's what I'm excited about for Lakeview is to be able to hear consistently, no matter who's preaching, I believe quality messages. But what I'm most excited about is, Tim was talking to me about this yesterday, that the freedom it gives him now. Like he's able now to quote unquote be a campus pastor for at least one Sunday a month or so, and talk to amount of people that he hasn't been able to talk to. Tim, talk about the guy that you talked to who came back from the parking lot to talk to you again.
There was a brand new guy. He walked in the worship center, and he walked in maybe right a few minutes after we started, and I had just said hello and introduced myself. I didn't introduce my title. I just said, hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to Lakeview. And then I was brought up on stage for the recognition thing and everything. And so he didn't know that I was the pastor because I wasn't even preaching that Sunday yesterday. And after service, I was walking out with the fam, and he came and found me in the parking lot. Young dude, maybe like 22, 23 years old. He came up to me in the parking lot, and he was like, hey, man, I just want to let you know that I was in the car, but something told me I need to get out of my car and come tell you how much it meant to me that you welcomed me and said hello to me. And I didn't even know you were the lead pastor of the church. And I was like, that's cool. Like on a normal Sunday when I'm preaching, I don't know that I would have been able to do that because I'm so focused and locked in on getting ready to preach. So being able to do that was really special. And then hearing from him was like, that's a young dude who kind of felt like from the Lord to say, hey, like let me go back and just encourage Tim in this way. And it was really encouraging to me. It was like, okay, so that is a role that I can serve on Sundays when I'm not preaching, to just make myself present and be there for people, which is kind of cool.
CJ said something kind of funny. So I never experienced this. Andrew, do you know like the level of security Lakeview has?
CJ says security really letting Tim down.
Okay.
CJ, for the record, security was close by.
Yeah.
He's always watching. I have 2 signs that I give him if he needs to step in.
I need to know what these signs are because
I'm going to give you the signals too. I don't want to say them online.
No, don't do it online. But okay, I gotta share this.
We're gonna have signals. If I give him the
great
signal,
lunch today. I can't wait.
Security steps in, and then he will intervene. Usually with a, "Hey Tim, Mary needs you over in the kids ministry wing." Like that's his like go-to line or something like that to get me away from an aggressive person.
So,
and John, yes, you're right. It's safety, not security.
You're right. I mean, last week it was my first time preaching, and I didn't realize this. People were saying, who were on the safety team, "Hey, I'll be your shadow."
Correct.
And
I didn't use the term shadow. Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant. Like I didn't know there was a person that was going to follow me. And literally, like
if you go to the restroom, they wait outside.
Yeah. Like I'm like roaming. Weird. I'm like I just want to meet people.
Well, it's not
whatever.
If someone else follows you into the restroom,
I get it.
Yeah, and they were literally all three the entire time from the time I got there to the time I left. There was someone kind of on my tail everywhere I went.
It's huge peace of mind for my wife. Like she's very thankful to know that if someone were to get a little wild, we do have a safety team ready to step in.
My wife is convinced that if anybody is going to attack/murder me, it's going to be her. So I don't think she ever has to worry about that.
I've yet to know whether or not those people are packing or not. I don't know.
Don't ask. You don't want to know.
I did look and I was like, do I see like
Our
a
safety
print?
Team?
Yeah.
I was just saying, you don't want to know.
But what's funny
Because
is
if you know, and then someone sues the church, they say, "Oh, Pastor Frank knew that so and so was packing." If a citizen happens to be packing, that's not the church's responsibility. If you know that they're packing and are leaning in on them packing, and this church gets sued, then you're in trouble. So you don't ask.
I didn't ask. I didn't know. But what's funny is
This episode's going to show up in a court case someday. Bum, bum,
one thing I saw with Tim
do.
is on Sunday morning, because he somehow you had the safety detail when not Todd.
I don't know how that happened.
Because again,
Well,
Todd doesn't
Frank,
need us.
when you
Tim is not a small guy.
I know,
you
but if a
preached,
bullet
I
comes
wasn't
near
there.
Todd, he's
Right,
going to
right,
flex
right.
and it's going to ping,
Yeah.
bounce
But-
off of him.
So we're gonna have to have this conversation with the safety team when I'm preaching and you're there. When you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We both need
Well,
safety.
one thing that was funny about Tim is there's times where he was sitting and
The dude was a college offensive lineman. I'm just like,
but what I love about it is that
he had a career as a bouncer before he knew
It's
Jesus.
more so
I
someone
was I did
will-
have a side hustle as a bouncer
Like
one
if
time.
someone doesn't
That's
stop
funny.
talking to you and you don't want to
Yes.
break that, the safety team can step in and
Yeah.
break it for you, and it's a really polite way to end that conversation.
All that to say is there was a moment where Tim was waiting to get on the platform, and the safety team guy sat right next to him. I'm like, oh, Tim has like a friend the entire morning. He's kind of like sit with
Oh,
him,
that's so
make him not
nice.
feel alone.
my
You know,
buddy.
so that was pretty awesome.
Matt says a random person told me a few weeks ago I should place the podium off center so people don't have a straight shot. And I must be honest, it freaked me out a little because it was his second week at the church.
Do you remember that video?
I don't know why off-centered would help. Like they can still center up
Hey,
whether you're.
Shout out to like Presbyterian churches that have
Yeah,
like
the chancel.
Yeah, off the
Why
side.
would that matter?
I mean, if you're like going from the
If you've got
hallway,
a bulletproof chancel, that'd be great.
Okay, sure.
What about that video of the guy who was preaching and he was packing while he was preaching? The guy stormed. Do you remember that video
yeah, yeah.
a couple
I've seen
years
that
ago?
clip.
That-
He like
that was
pulls
wild.
like while the guys, and they didn't delete it from their live stream. The first thing that I would do would be like, "Hey, we need to
Take down the live stream.
Take down the live
Take
stream.
down the live stream.
you know that pastor thought that was gangster.
I know.
he was like,
Leave that up.
This is gonna.
He's like, I'm finally going to get invited to speak at my denominational conferences.
the conference are gonna love this.
This will be great.
Yeah. So Andrew, you don't know what you're preaching next week. That's great.
No, I know what I'm preaching. I know what I'm preaching through the month, and then for February, I know the middle or the in between, whatever we call it,
Okay.
is where I'm going. I just don't know if it's going to be a 4-weeker, if it's going to be 6-weeker. So that's what I need to outline out. So we've got that, and then we're pretty soon into Easter at that point. So it'll all come together. But really, for me to sit down in July and have a 6-month calendar is rare for me. Usually I'm one series ahead.
Yeah.
Is kind of my goal. And my goal is because I don't have a team where I can put out a calendar for the year and be like, hey, on this day you're preaching this topic. It's me. So if I change my mind or whatever. So my goal is
Which
usually
there's a lot of freedom in that.
there is. But my goal is usually to just work one series ahead of where I am.
Yeah.
But so the series that I'm in now were 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, but in particular the passages about the return of Christ in 1st and 2nd 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. And as I was putting this together, I was like, oh, this is a great idea. It's a very cohesive set of thoughts. I get apprehensive about preaching the epistles. I don't know if there's like a specific type of literature that you don't enjoy preaching as
The
much.
epistles?
Yeah, like in general, I feel more uncomfortable preaching from the epistles than, which is funny because they're just sermons in writing.
Yeah.
But that we just pulled up on the screen. Tim, can you use your phone as a second and let people know what we're looking at here?
Yeah, sure.
So like I said, I love me a good Old Testament narrative, a long passage in the Gospels. I think what it is I like at least a 10 or 12 verse section of Scripture to preach out of, where so many of the epistles you have like a 6 or 8
You don't
verse
really see it though.
paragraph.
Yeah, you're not going to see it well.
Well, I just pulled up Lakeview's 2025 preaching calendar.
Go down to
Frank, if
to
actually
June
I
and
could,
July. I
I
wanna
could
see
do.
when I can go out of town and have you come here, Frank. Scroll down a little bit. Why are you laughing?
Anyways, we
So
have
can't be gone on the 20th of July. I'm seeing there.
sure.
Wait, so Frank, if I pull this up, I could actually show this from my end. It's in our Google Doc, right?
Yeah, it's on Sheets. So we have basically until the end of the beginning of April, we're doing the First Corinthians series, and so he's already been in it. And what we decided is I'm preaching like a quarter of the time, so I'm almost like once a month. And then we're doing the Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Easter thing in
Palm Frog.
I know what I was trying to say there.
It's a very popular.
Oh, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. First Corinthians goes all the way to June. I forgot. We take a break for Palm Sunday and Easter, and then in where is it? In July, we started a new series called Misused. Mm-hmm. And it's misused passages, like misunderstood, like, you know, the stuff you see on Hobby Lobby pillows, you know, those type of things. And we're going to, preach, one-off messages on those passages to put in its proper context. And then in September, we're starting a series in the book of Exodus. And that's really exciting.
It's behind me right now. You can kind of see it.
But so that's what I'm kind of the idea for the series that I was talking about. You have just naturally, what is that? 4, 7. So you've got a 10-week Exodus series right there.
It's only for the
so Exodus will continue.
And you're covering just the first half of the book. You're like
barely the first half.
You're not even getting to Sinai.
No.
There. And so
we're getting through the law before the end of the year.
But 2026 will be
the plagues.
Exodus.
Yeah.
We'll pick back up in Exodus after Advent 25.
Yeah.
Well, and then if you want, I'll give you my manuscripts for the in-between time, and you can
which would be
pick that up the next time around. But so do neither of you guys have a type of literature and scripture that you're less comfortable preaching from? I know some people that like hate preaching from the Psalms.
It's a good question. I mean, I think I would have said something like the prophets, but I just did. In my last years, we did a couple books from the prophets, and I actually really enjoyed it. I just think it's a different kind of literature that I had to I've never been into often to preach from, and so I had to wrap my mind around of how do I take this and preach it. I feel like the epistles are great because they're just like practical application after practical application.
It's practical application, but it's also like here's a 3 or 4 verse thing. If I was
Frank, Erica's wondering what's an epistle.
It's a letter. It's a fancy word for a letter.
It's basically everything that Paul wrote, and then
Hebrews,
First
and then 2 Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude.
Yeah.
Ben's wondering if we can share that template of our preaching calendar.
We can do that.
Absolutely, easy.
Yeah, we'll do that somehow. Probably on social media.
We'll post it
on the morning after Facebook. Yeah, we'll do that.
CJ's wondering if we have a translation that we request everyone preaching uses. Yeah, we use ESV. ESV.
Some congregant at Lakeview said, "I'm glad to see you guys use the elect standard version," and I was like, "Nice."
I have heard that as well.
I use whatever proves my point best, and because
whatever proves my point best. There's a seminary professor that's really angry at you right now.
Well, how many times have you been in a seminary class where they will say, in the Message it says this, in the NASB it says this,
Sure.
So if people are going through and polling, here are the different possible translations of this word or that word, how is that any different than me saying, ooh, I like this verse better, I like that verse better?
Matt says, I love the misused passage series. I just got a new mug that says, quote, I can do all things through a verse taken out of context.
Yeah.
Look how pretty that looks right there.
Jeremiah 29:11 is always misused. Philippians 4:13 is obviously that one. But we're doing some interesting ones. We're doing about the root of all evil. Money's the root of all evil. We're talking about. I mean, there's some really interesting passages in there that I think are going to be a really good time.
I've even heard from a few elders that have said they're open to chiming in that series.
Ooh. Good.
So July could be a really fun.
You could have a no Tim preaching in July going forward.
Well, what I'm saying is we could have a no Tim, no Frank July.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah,
I've had 2
right
elders.
now, you're scheduled to preach once in July.
Let's get rid of these 2 right here. Anyways.
2 elders reach out and say they
Look, the more I can have Frank here in July, the better. That's all I'm saying.
That's not what this is about.
I think I'm doing a couple summer camps in July too. So we'll see. We'll see.
We get it, Frank.
That's
Kind of a big deal.
That's not what I'm saying.
It's a big, you know how hard it was to get into Lakeview?
Okay, moving on. It's almost lunchtime, guys.
Did you hear that? He's moving us along on our own podcast. He's so used to being in charge that he's like, all right, come on, guys. Let's go on.
He is very much a co-host of the show now.
Yeah.
3 co-hosts.
We're gonna need a new banner.
We do need to
We're gonna need to change so many things.
Ben says, misused where 2 or more are gathered. I mean, it's not misused if you're talking church discipline.
You're not.
You're not
I'm
talking
with you.
church discipline. It's probably misused.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Timmy,
Yeah.
I don't want to critique your parenting in public, but I really want to.
You can critique my parenting right now.
Tim, I couldn't help but notice while looking at your family's vacation photos
Sure.
that you allowed one of your children to get a facial piercing.
I don't know. She's not watching the show. It's fake.
What?
Don't. Okay. Hopefully none of her friends are watching.
What?
It's a nose ring that's not pierced. It's not even a clip on. Like there's just a slight opening and it slides in, and the nose ring looks. My in-laws and my parents were like, "Oh, okay, so we're here now." Like they were trying to be so polite and kind and like delicate around it, and so we just let them believe it was real until the end of the night, and they're like,
That's
okay.
so funny.
And they're like, we feel so much better now.
I will regularly have conversations with teenage girls and their moms. That sounds weird, but but whenever I'm having I want a nose ring, that's not happening. I'll be like, when you read through the whole Bible, the first piece of jewelry ever mentioned anywhere in Scripture is a nose ring, and it was a sign that Rebecca was no longer part of her father's family, but that she was part of God's people.
What we told
So I tried to
I get it.
create trepidation to make teenage girls think that they can use that as an argument to tell their mom. That, for the record, that argument was used on the campus at Liberty University, and the only non-ear piercing that is allowed to be visible on campus is a nose ring because someone argued from that passage.
CJ says Mary had a nose ring, so it's what
I
the person on TikTok said.
completely believe that Mary had a nose ring.
And Jesus has a tattoo in Revelation, so
Right on his
There you
thigh.
go. Right on his thigh.
What we
Come
told
on.
Emily was test this out. If you like it and it's not uncomfortable, then we can move forward with the piercing. We've got a jeweler at the church who does all the piercings for my kids.
what is the Calvary rule? Are you allowed to have a nose ring at Calvary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a nose ring. It's fine. Not a huge deal. I thought you were critiquing my parenting because I put my 15-year-old daughter on a plane and sent her across the country.
Heck no.
That was so part of her surprise Christmas gift was a set of luggage, and inside the luggage was a ticket to hop on a plane by yourself to fly to LA to see your cousin, to spend time with her family, to go on the set of Gilmore Girls. She's coming back today.
It's a big Christmas present.
If my brother calls me, I'm going to step out because she's hopping on a plane from LA to
And
come back. So I got like the special ticket to walk her to the gate. I think I tried to walk her on the plane because I was just so used to that, and like I had to stop at the glass, and I'm like putting my hands in the glass, like, is this okay?
I didn't realize
felt so weird.
that was still that was a thing that you could get. I feel because my in-laws want one of our
felt
boys
weird.
to come up every summer, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm comfortable sending them, but with that, I was like, oh, that's great. Speaking of being in the airport, we've talked credit card points for the sabbatical trip before.
Slackers.
Listen, we need to find a conference that the three of us can go to, and that's either in Dallas or has preferably a layover in Dallas, because Dallas has the new Capital One Lounge. Holy cow!
can you get us in there?
Yes,
Nice.
Is it amazing?
I get two guests with me.
And there's 2 people in this room with you.
There's showers.
One on your left and one on your right.
there is a Pilates and Peloton
Is
studio.
Frank sitting at your right hand?
Yes.
Wow.
Do we need to switch?
Wow.
I
I guess first shall be last.
So when I was coming, because I flew in and out of Fort Smith, which is an airport the size of this room in Nowheresville, Arkansas, and so
heard of that
it's
place.
just a quick little puddle jump to Dallas, and then I took the Dallas to Tampa flight. So both times I had a layover in Dallas. The
You
second
fly a
time,
lot. You're so cool. You're kind of like a big.
my arms are tired, but the second time the lounge was about to close, so I just went in real quick. They had Nutella and jelly sandwiches, like in the grab and go bags. It was the most delicious thing I've ever had in my life. guys, we need to find a conference either in Dallas or with a Dallas layover to make it happen.
I was gonna say because the youth pastor conference in Orlando.
We can fly to Dallas and
fly to Orlando.
Down and back on a down trip.
just to access that thing.
Just to go to the airport lounge. It was.
I will say this when it comes to like sending your kid across the country. For me, like when I flew by myself first, I kind of wish that I had a parent walk me to the gate and like kind of show me all the steps. Because now Emily's like, yeah, I feel pretty confident about walking through this. Like, that's kind of a nice, like, the next step. The only thing she had to do was get on the plane and get off the plane. Now, coming back, I can't get access to the gate. So I showed her, you can FaceTime me. I'll walk you right to the train. But she's like, Dad, I see all the signs. I'm not, So she's
the
good.
first time I flew without a parent, I was out of college. And then I flew
Matching tattoos at PPCon. Are we in, guys? Andrew only has 7. Are you ready for 8 tattoos, Andrew?
I'm not. I just don't have any more room on my cheeks. They're all covered. Full murals.
All right, you were 32 when you first flew.
No, I wasn't 30. But I'm saying I never flew. The first time I flew without family members with me.
Without your mom?
Because I did once. I did a Europe trip with my grandparents and cousins once, and so my cousins and I met my grandparents in London. But I had my 17-year-old cousin when I was 15 or 14. But going on an airplane without anybody with me, I was 23 years old on staff at Harborside the first time I went anywhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is I was probably in college too.
Yeah.
So you did not fly to the Ukraine by yourself when you were 16 for a mission trip because God told you to go.
I did not.
Just me. Got it.
Just you. And did your parents walk you to the gate?
No.
Because it was post September 11th because you're 12 years old.
I was 16. They dropped me off at the airport and said,
Figure it out.
Curbside.
That was it. I flew to New York and then flew from New York to Kiev, Ukraine.
Look at your dad teaching you character.
I don't.
Like thinking back as a 16-year-old boy flying out of the country with a group that I'd never met. So I met the group in Ukraine.
Wow.
They were a Ukraine missions organization.
Okay.
Slightly terrifying. Student Life Camp showed a promo video and I was like, I should go to that camp. And
you did.
I went to that mission trip camp.
Wow. Guys,
I just love Jesus more.
this has been deep. It's been compelling. I haven't eaten since yesterday.
And today's the morning after. Let's go
And
eat.
so I think we need
so
to wrap
hungry.
this up,
I'm so hungry.
go eat, and then maybe do some practically pastoring with our buddies.
I'm
Yeah.
starving.
Hey, why don't you guys tune in next week and maybe we'll be in here. Maybe we'll be back in the office. I don't know.
I love this setup. We'll be right here.
I love this.
Love you and miss you already. See you next week.
Bye.